All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some examples of why it is so important that you sharpen all of your images for photography. So I've got a bunch of PSDs open here, and I'm just going to kind of zoom in all over the place and show you just how sharp and crisp everything is. After I ran my Sharpen pass, this is a property that was done a while ago, but I still have all the PSDs for it. So I'm just going to go through these and show you how soft the image actually is without sharpening it. So just going to kind of illustrate why it's important to actually sharpen everything, because it makes everything crisp and it makes everything sharp and it makes it pop. It's really the last step of your photography workflow. You basically want to save the Sharpen pass for the very last step. Right before you save out your JPEG or PNG, whatever file format you use, it should really be the last step. As you can see here, it really helps to bring out small details, and it even helps to add contrast to the image itself. And you can see just how soft these images are without. I mean, it's almost they're almost blurred to an unacceptable level without being sharpened. It's almost like they're all blurred, as you can see. And then when I zoom out all the way, hopefully you can see this on your monitor. But it is extremely important that you sharpen everything. When you run the Sharpen pass, it's going to really punch the small details. It'll punch and help to crunch the woods and different materials and things like that. And like I keep saying, it really just helps to finalize the image. Because if you're sending out images that don't have a proper Sharpen pass applied to them, then in my opinion, they're really not complete and they just look like garbage. So if I sent this out to the agent or the homeowner, whoever it is, I mean, it barely looks like the image was even edited, in my opinion. Here's I'm going to go through a couple layers right here. So here's what I started with, and then I brushed in. I'll just get this centered. I brushed in this one using a soft brush, and I did a little bit of masking. I took the exposure of the light on the jacuzzi down, and I made a pretty quick mask just for the interior, just to lower that. And then I brightened it back up with an adjustment layer right here. And then I brightened up the left-hand side just a tad. And that's pretty much all I did for these exterior shots. The exterior night shots are typically pretty easy to edit. But again, you can see how soft the image is, and it's really unacceptable. That's why it's important to run the Sharpen pass, as you can see here. There's the before, there's the after, and now it's really starting to look like it's professional and it's complete. I'll just move on to another one here. And you can, again, hopefully you can see this on your monitor, just how crisp and professional everything looks thanks to the sharpening pass. I'm not going to do a video on how to create, I'm not going to do a video right now on the workflow and the steps to create a proper Sharpen pass right now. Basically, me and my team have been using the exact same action for well over 10 years. It's an action that one of my other coworkers created, and basically here's the steps to it. It's really simple stuff. There's tons of videos on how to create a lab Sharpen pass, and instead of dealing with the hassle of having to do it every single time, we just recorded an action of it. And we save this for the very last step, like I said earlier, and then we just run it hitting the play button. So it's just a really simple but professional lab sharpen and an action. That's pretty much all it is. And again, I said, as I said earlier, it's the last step in the editing workflow. It's the very last step. Because you don't want to run the sharpen pass and then still have to make edits to it, right? Get all your adjustment layers, get all your edits, your masking and things like that. Get everything out of the way, right? Here's just another quick example. I brushed in this layer, added a little bit of brightness, took away some contrast. I masked that in. Pretty simple stuff. Added some brightness to the outside because it was looking a little bit too dark. And I added some blues to it and then put that layer in a darken mode, I believe. That's what I did there. And then I merged all onto a new layer right here, and then I ran the sharpen pass action. So when I merged all onto a new layer with this one right here, the action will basically duplicate that existing layer, and then it will run the sharpen pass onto a new layer. That way you kind of have a safety layer in case you need to delete the sharpen pass for some reason. Sometimes I'll think I'm done, right? And I'll have to just delete a bunch of stuff and keep making edits to the image, even though I thought it was done, right? That happens pretty often. Well, maybe not that often, but, it does happen where I'll run the sharpen pass, but then I have to, kind of go back and keep editing a bunch of stuff. But here's another great example of just how crisp it really makes everything. Having that lab sharpen pass, it just really helps to sell the image. And I see all the time photographers and real estate photography companies sending out images like this, which looks great, but they're not sharpened and they're not crisp, and they just don't look good on virtual tours. They don't look good when they're in print or any kind of magazines or anything like that. The last thing you're going to want to have happen is have an excellent photographer go out in the field and take great photos, give the raw images to you. You do your job and make everything look great, but not sharpen the image. Because if those go into a magazine, they're going to look very, very soft. For some reason, in print media, it's much less forgiving than a virtual tour hosted on a website is. So you're really going to want to be able to bring out those details. And when I don't know about you, but when I run my sharpen pass, the only real downside is that it will bring out a little bit of noise in the skies. If it's a dark image, like say nighttime, I don't know if you can see this on your monitor, but when I run the sharpen pass, it punches things and makes it pop out so much that it will actually create a little bit of noise. But when I run the sharpen pass, I do have the ability to... Actually, I'll just show you right now. So let me delete that layer. So what I do is I go up to image, mode, lab color, and then I'll say don't flatten, and then I will run the action, and I still have the ability to adjust parameters like the amount, the radius, and the threshold levels, and things like that. So I can still have some control over the amount of noise that's created. But one thing that you can do is obviously you could just pop in a mask. If it results in too much noise, you can just pop in a mask and paint out that sharpen pass in areas where it may have created too much sharpness and resulted in the creation of noise on the image, right? The last thing you want to have happen is to create artifacts that will destroy the integrity and overall quality of the image itself, right? So obviously that's something that you can do to kind of mitigate and minimize that kind of stuff. It happened again here. But overall, it's not bad, and it's typically a small amount, and it's really negligible because the agents, when they view these on a virtual tour hosted on a website, they're going to be typically looking at these images from very far away. Most of the image viewers that I've seen online, they don't give you the ability to zoom in. So you're really locked into, what your monitor kind of gives you, right? And that's about it. You can't really zoom in. So it's never really an issue. But if you're going to be doing print media or anything like that, you definitely do want to watch out for the creation of noise with your Sharpen pass. Because if you have artifacts kind of like this in the shadows and dark areas are typically where you'll be able to see the noise much more than in other areas. I would definitely suggest brushing that out with a mask if this was going into, a magazine or something like that. Just don't brush it out so much that you lose a substantial amount of sharpness or overall crispness to the image, right? You don't want to have that happen. You want to find a good balance between the noise and the overall sharpness if noise is created or anything like that, But these are just some really basic examples of, why it's so important to always sharpen your images before you send them out. And I even use this particular action, this lab sharpening pass. I use this on all my own photos, even things outside of photography, such as 3D production. I use it for everything. I use it for my own portraits, my own photography, my own 2D images that I create in Photoshop, whatever it is. I always run a solid Sharpen pass because you don't want to have your work be soft or blurry looking, right? You really want to finalize it with, having the ability to make it crisp with that Sharpen pass, so it's really, really important. And here's just a few more images, and then we'll take a look at some images that were sent out to clients that were not sharpened. And these are actually some random ones that I found online, but before we get to those, you can just see how unprofessional it looks without that Sharpen pass, and just how strong and solid and professional looking it does look once the Sharpen pass is finally applied to it. And it will really illustrate that more with certain images like this one than others. It really helps to bring out grass and small objects in the scene, right? I mean, this astroturf grass, whatever this material is, I mean, that is an absolute night and day difference right there. Night and day. I keep saying it over and over and over. It helps to bring out all those materials, right? Whether it's wood, grass, bricks, some kind of metal, some kind of painting. There's the after, there's the before. We go from soft to a sharp, crisp, final image. And I actually did a little bit of lens correction with this one on that Sharpen layer. But again, with the woods, it goes from soft and dull to sharp. And it just looks excellent. Even the trees in the back look so much better. It really helps to bring out those small details. And here's just one more. I'll just kind of zoom into these chairs over here. And you can see what I'm talking about when I say how much it brings out the contrast as well, you know. It's not just making things sharper, it's actually adding contrast, which really helps to make things pop. And again, if I zoom in enough, you'll begin to see that noise creation. But 95% of the time, it's negligible. And it really doesn't require manual masking or reduction of that noise. And you can completely get away with it. Sometimes you'll have to, pop in a mask and brush things out. But for the most part, it's, you just run the sharpen pass and just save the image out and it's good to go, But like I said, it's the final step. It's not something that you want to do and then continue to make edits to the image. Really is the finalization process with that sharpening pass. And then finally, I went online and just grabbed a bunch of real estate photography images from a lot of different companies. And it's really easy to tell when they have not been sharpened. Not only do we have some pretty crappy photography, I don't even know if this one was actually edited. I really don't know. It looks like they just kind of fired off a single image and then kind of called it a day. Maybe they used a flash with the camera, but this one looks pretty soft and dull. It just doesn't look very professional. Here's another one. It's kind of a lower resolution, but again, it's pretty soft. And this one actually looks like they did sharpen it, but their editing is absolute garbage. It just looks like crap. There's really no white balance, and they didn't reduce the reds or the yellows. And it looks like they did some kind of sky replacement. I don't even know what's going on here. But you can tell because it has that fringe halo look around where they masked out the roof awning area over here. And you can tell right here, there's a little bit of bleed over with the sky itself. So their masking wasn't really that good. I don't know if they were using the channels to extract the sky or something, but this image doesn't look good, but they did sharpen it. So, it's sharp. So at least there's that. This is another one that's just unacceptable. Not just because they didn't sharpen it, but the overall photography and editing is just garbage, I mean, we've still got people sitting out here on the lanai. I don't know what's going on with this one, but it's really, really soft. I'm not even going to continue commenting on the editing or lack thereof. And, something that you really don't want to do is put a watermark on your images unless you're just starting out and you're worried that your clients are going to, steal it and not pay you or something. I don't know. I definitely want to come in there and remove the lens spots and stuff. Do not put a watermark. It looks absolutely ridiculous. And the editing isn't horrible. I mean, it's pretty bad to be honest, but it looks like they did sharpen it. But geez, now that I'm kind of sitting here looking at this image, it's clear that they I don't know if they used the pen tool or whatever to mask these images out. The windows and stuff, but they also brushed it in. So they brushed in their darker outside layer. And you're getting terrible spillover. This is the kind of stuff that you really want to avoid when it comes to masking. And I mean, it's awful. It's just kind of all over the place now that I'm looking at it. We're even getting it on the candle right here. That looks horrible. This is why I always say in every one of my videos that you need to make things as consistent as possible and as perfect as you possibly can. And this is not perfect. This is really unacceptable. The masking that they did with these chairs over here is just really, really lazy. Sometimes people want to take shortcuts, but there's really no shortcuts when it comes to editing architecture or real estate photography, when it comes to compositing multiple images. And again, there's really no reason to put any of your copyright crap or watermarks or anything like that, especially on a garbage image like this. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. Looks like total crap. I mean, I guess this guy went out there and just shot a photo, took a shot with his camera or something. I don't even know what he's using. Looks like he's actually pointing down instead of being completely level. You know, of course, there's no white balance. There's really no editing going on here. And again, it's looking pretty soft. It's looking pretty soft. This one looks really soft. The editing is really bad. The colors, the contrast. I don't know what kind of camera they were using for this one. But again, that's really bad. This area is really overexposed. Everything looks just terrible, to be honest. And there's a ton of noise in the sky at nighttime, so you should definitely be using a high-grade DSLR or high-grade camera, you know, to get rid of that ISO, so you don't have noise for dark nighttime shots and stuff like that. And here's another one that's really soft. And they just don't look good. Looks really bad. Actually, let me run my Sharpen pass on this. I just want to see if this will even make a difference. It's a low-res image. Let me see what this is. 1920 by 1080. I mean, it is HD, but it's still pretty low-res. You should be shooting with a camera that captures at least 4K, preferably 6K. We use the Nikon D750 and 780 sometimes. That's a 6K raw image that it outputs. But I mean, even just applying this Sharpen pass to a 1920 by 1080 image really helps to improve it. As you can see, it just helps to crisp everything up and make it pop. This image looks like total garbage, don't get me wrong. The Gulf Breeze's photography over here is not doing the best of work. You know, there's really no editing going on here. Again, get rid of these ridiculous watermarks. There's a watermark right in the middle of this. I don't know why people do this. They think that if they upload it online, someone's going to steal it and call it their own. I don't understand the mentality or mindset behind that. Don't do that. It's a joke. But this thing is not even level. And it looks like he's actually pointing the camera up as well. You know, I mean, if things are off, you may have to crop it in post-production. You know, and just manually fix things. Even if it means losing a little bit of space down here or up here or something like that, you know. But obviously this is the fault of the photographer. You know, things have to be level all the time. Don't ever point your camera up or down unless that's kind of a shot that the agents want. You know, if there's like a chandelier up top and you're in the foyer or the lobby of a building or something. And a lot of times people want these kind of shots that are a little bit more artistic, I guess, where they kind of focus on the wine glass. And, you know, we'll get some of those shots sometimes where it's like a wine glass at sunset overlooking the ocean off a balcony or a lanai. You know, those shots aren't uncommon, but again, always remove the shadows if you can from the photographer. And of course, sharpen your image. This doesn't look like it was sharpened to me. It looks really soft in the back. And I don't think that was really edited very much. And this one's all over the place. This one looks like it was actually sharpened. It looks pretty crisp, and there's a lot of contrast to it, which is good. But the white balance is really off, and the skies are a joke. It looks like, judging by how these the trees, the tree branches up here are a little bit darker than the tree branches down there. Looks like they extracted the sky and maybe tried to replace it with something else. I'm not sure what happened here. It looks really fake and unnatural. I always say go with what is natural. Don't do things that are artificial unless the agent or the client requests that. And always do a good job with the white balance, obviously. Here's another one that's really, really soft. And just get rid of this crap in the pool. Take a few minutes and remove things. You know, I mean, if things are sticking out from the left side, get rid of that. Get rid of that branch. They did some kind of sky replacement here. Looks like they extracted the background. But again, we're getting that kind of fringe halo look around the tree branches and the trees themselves up here. It doesn't look good. So if you're going to do a sky replacement, make sure that it's good. And make sure, of course, that George Costanza over here is removed from the photo. And, of course, that you always sharpen your images. That's kind of why we're here. Here's another sky replacement that's unnatural looking. Kind of looks like it's out of a comic book or something. Doesn't really look good. And I don't think they sharpened this. Looks pretty soft and dull. Pretty soft and dull. We're just going to move right on past this image because that's just awful. I don't know if they did it for that one. They definitely... I don't believe they sharpened this one. This one looks pretty soft too. Let me run the sharpen pass on this image. I want to see how much of a difference that makes. And yeah, that looks way better. Just right off the bat. What is the resolution of this image? 2084 by 1439. And again, I mean, it's so easy to create that sharpen pass in an action and just run it when you're done. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. I mean, we go from soft and blurry to sharp, and with crisp contrast and sharpness. It's so easy to do. This image doesn't look terrible, but again, it's pretty soft. I don't think this is a high-res image. No, 2000 by 1334. Yeah, let me see what that looks like. And that over-crunched it. Gave it too much sharpness because it's a low-res image. If your images are not high resolution, preferably 4K and up, be careful with your sharpen pass because it's going to be real easy for it to become overly sharpened, and it's going to destroy the image in certain regards. So if you have, a lower resolution image like this one at 2000 by 1334, I would run it, but I wouldn't leave it at 100%. I would just bring it up incrementally until I reach a point that I like, and maybe leave it around 63% or something like that, But that's pretty simple, Maybe bring it down just a tad. We go from soft, now it's looking much more professional. That would look much better in the hands of a client that's paying for that, Really helps to bring out the trees and make those pop. Helps to bring out the waterfall area over there, and it just looks better overall. Here's another one that's really soft. I'm just going to do this one more time. I want to see what this looks like. And at a distance, it looks better. But again, it's when you have dark areas or low resolution areas, low resolution images, it's going to result in that noise like it is on these cabinets over here because they're dark and it's a low resolution image. So if that's the case, and you're getting that noise that's unwanted from your sharpen pass, just, pop in a mask and just kind of brush out with a soft brush those unwanted areas, but it's definitely an improvement, just trying to kind of illustrate and show another example of of why things need to be sharpened. And this one's really, really blurry and dull. I don't know what's going on here with this image. That's just awful. I'm going to move on past that. This one looks like it was sharpened, but again, it's a low-res image, really low-res image, so it's kind of hard to see what's going on there with that one. And this one looks like it may have been sharpened as well, but the white balance is really non-existent. The yellows and the contrast are kind of out of control on the left-hand side. And the job that they did with the outside exposures doesn't look good either. It's kind of radiating and it's got this neon glow. It's just not very good editing overall, but hopefully I have done a decent job showing you how you really have to sharpen those images. And again, there's tons of tutorials online. I'm not going to do one here. It's not difficult to do a sharpen pass and create a quick action and then just save it. Save your action file. That way, whenever you reformat your computer, you can just double click it and it will load up into your actions. It's really simple stuff. Really simple stuff, but it goes a long way. It goes an extremely long way. And it will help to bring out your images, because the last thing, again, as I said earlier, the last thing that you want to do is, have great photography, great editing, put it all together, but forget that one last step that really brings everything together, and that is the sharpen pass.